All right. So we're going to continue our discussion on the perfection. The whole series that is based on the job of spirituality to take you out of stress into the state of samadhi. There are various factors that are responsible for the stress, and the stress is something is only you can realize it's a stress until you step out and realize what is not stress.
Okay.
So until you experience even the few moments of bliss somewhere, somehow, does not even have to in a temple. You could be carrying out business in a temple. It may not necessarily give you that bliss. You could be taking a nice walk and all of a sudden you see a beautiful sunrise. All your thoughts, all your stressful thoughts disappear and you appreciate the beauty of nature. So those fleeting moments of bliss is what we're saying can be there 24/7 with us all the time. But we unfortunately, the importance that we give to the material life drags us into this rat race of the stress. But that's why people feel better when they take vacation. They don't have to worry about anything. Right? So, but why can't we have that feeling 24/7, whether you hear or... So the job of spirituality is to take you from the platform of stress to the platform of samadhi. And until we really have two things to compare, it's not going to happen. So one of the factors that is responsible for stealing that samadhi from us, because by birth we are entitled to be in samadhi. We are born in samadhi. We are in total bliss when we were living in mother's womb. We had everything was taken care of. We had no worries. We did not have to pay any taxes.
No, right.
We did not have to go to work. We don't have to worry about our children, nothing. It was just a state of very perfect balance. And that balance gets disturbed when we are born. And that's why we start crying. And then the whole thing after that. So we were born with samadhi. Samadhi is our natural state of existence. So when we are involved with the material life, and there is nothing wrong with material life. Before the human beings were born, flowers were being born, they were blooming, the trees were there, the animals were there, beautiful sunrises were there. There was no stress. The stress came with the human being, with our mind, and with all our ideas of holding on to things and stealing and all these things and taking away from somebody, building up something. So all these wrong ideas started surfacing, and that's when the stress came. So, so samadhi is built into us. We just have to uncover it. And one of the factors responsible for the stress is the idea of perfection. That's we had started talking about it last time. So perfection is a desire that starts in the mind, which is serene to begin with. Only when you desire, when you think that you are not perfect, that's when the race for perfection starts. So the oiling of that big machinery of the sansar is the desire. That's the oil. And the assumption that you are imperfect gives rise to the desires and then ultimately the actions towards some futuristic goal of perfection. But now, if you really analyze it, perfection is just not possible, because perfection is an existential cul-de-sac, how Osho puts it. Because perfection means no growth. Things grow only to get better. We grew from a tiny amoeba all the way up to here. So the continuous change is happening, the growth is happening with some futuristic change that is happening. But if you realize, if the whole world reaches to one perfect state, then there is no growth possible, because perfection means it's an end. That's it. You cannot do anymore. Once you become the richest guy in the world, then it's boring. Life is so boring because you have nothing to go further, nothing to achieve anymore. And it's really, and you are the only one at the top, and it gets very boring. So perfection is a state that is just devised by our minds. And we create that concept that somewhere in the future perfection is possible, and then we keep running after that goal. But when we are trying to reach to that state, in between, our life is passing us by. Before you realize you are 30, now before you realize you are 40, now you are 60, and then 70, and the life comes to an end, and we never reach that perfection. It's like driving in a desert, and then you keep seeing all this mrugja, the mirage, and it's just, oh, it's right there, it's right there, it's right there. Meanwhile, we lose the whole fun that we could have it if we didn't have to worry about all this perfection. So, first of all, we have to realize that perfection is an illusion. And not only that, to prove the point, consciousness is changing all the time. Why would it change? If everything was acceptable to the consciousness, consciousness would not be changing. As we speak, we are changing. As you listen, you are changing. Everything is in a continuously flux of a change. So change is continuously there. If it was perfect, it wouldn't be changing either. So consciousness is also growing or changing all the time. So from that perspective, we can say consciousness is imperfect also. And that imperfection is just fine. So whatever state you are in, it's okay. We don't have to judge ourselves, because whenever you're perfecting yourself, you always try to look around. So who else is better than me? Maybe I should do that. Who else has achieved so much in that field? Maybe I should do that. It's you're comparing yourself with everybody else, and that's very stressful. So when you remove that stress, the mind comes at ease. Automatically, the platform starts easing up. All the demands, all the stress that has been fed into your mind, that you have to become something, you have to do this, to achieve this, this and that, all that is gone. And then mind becomes so peaceful. So the same thing happens. All these religions are created for the same reason. They create such a huge superhumanistic features of their gods that makes you so tiny, that makes you so imperfect, that, oh, Mahavir Swami lived to be this many years. He was doing this, and what are you doing? That's the only way that feeds into your mind that you have to do something to achieve the state of Mahavir. Not realizing that non-doing is the state of being a Mahavir. But what do I know? The Dharma Gurus, they know everything. So then you have to go by all the prescription that has been given to you. And that prescription has to be followed. And if you don't reach there, too bad. Your efforts were not enough. You didn't have enough Shraddha. Your faith was lacking. So you did not. So keep trying. That's the oiling of the big machinery of all these religions. They feed on that. And it's just not necessary. All these religions ultimately take you nowhere, because all the time the whole idea has been fed into your mind that you have to do something to reach that state of nirvana or moksha or whatever you call that. And that is a wrong concept to begin with, because if you stop removing all these concepts, you are where you were supposed to be or were supposed to end up in. You're already there. But those ideas are the ripples in the state of samadhi that was already there. We were just talking. When it was a beautiful serene lake, right? And then somebody throws a little pebble, the ripples start. All that clarity of the lake is gone. Now, it doesn't matter whether that stone, or is it a Kohinoor diamond, or a brick of gold, it doesn't matter to the lake. What does the lake care? It's the serenity that is disturbed. Now, the serenity gets disturbed with whatever desire you have. Whether it's a desire to achieve nirvana, Or is the desire to be the biggest gambler, making the highest money in the casino? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Whether you want to make millions or you want to have this, all these desires ultimately disturbs your peace. So it doesn't really matter. We have to realize that our state of existential level is what is required to synchronize with the consciousness. So the same sansar we are seeing, right, is the rope. But once we have desires of achieving something out of that sansar, to build up something of your own, accumulate tons and tons of whatever you accumulate, whether it's accumulating the upscale lifestyle with the different wines, or is it X amount of dollars, or get a certain girlfriend, whatever, it doesn't matter. That desire to accumulate, it gets imprinted on that rope, and the rope becomes a snake. Now you're afraid that why do I have stress? Now who created that stress? We were responsible for creating that snake. So now whatever reactions follow after that, that you shout, you run away, you get into panic, you start screaming, oh my God, there is a snake in my backyard, what do I do with it? You run away, you panic, you whatever. All these subsequent reactions that happen is because of our primary mistake of thinking that there is a snake. So there is nothing to achieve. There is nothing to reach to a state of perfection. All these are just illusions. It's a psychotic state. It's a neurotic state that has been fed into our head. And it's not just one or two people. It's the whole society is into it. You and me, we both are into it. We have to remove these illusions. And these illusions are fed into each other. You know, to simple things, farming. They were doing study on the farming. Say the first guy who thought of doing the annual crops, he just happened to think that that's the way to do the farming. And now, from that ancestor, we are doing the same routine farming every day. For millions of years, we've been, I would say thousands of years, we've been doing that. But imagine a concept of perennial plants. If a plant, if you have tree, every year it gives the crops. Every year you have fruits. Why can't we have crops which gives you wheat or rice every year? And you just plant it and you just collect it. Then you don't have to do any kind of plowing, you don't have to do the seeds planting, you don't have to harvest, nothing. You just take the yield, and the same plant keeps on flourishing. So the original concept of the farming was taken in a wrong direction, and now we all are following, and this has become farming. So it's like I say, that if you choose a path on an intersection, and somebody says, no, go this way, and not this way, now you're 500 miles down the road.
You can't go back.
Now it's impossible. So now you say, what do I do? But you see the millions of people going with you, say, okay. Nobody stops to think that are we in the right direction? So the direction we have chosen to get that peace,
and I think
from the sansar, is a wrong notion. That was started as a wrong notion to begin with. It's never going to be there.
And there is a momentum of the push also, because
Exactly.
of the other people.
and nobody is to be blamed either. If I tell the patients, say, okay, you have to lose weight, but the momentum of their vasanas and vrittis is so strong that it's tough
It doesn't work.
for them to accept. I was just talking to Mr. Shamai. He said, this guy came with a severe bout of diverticulitis. He was like 300 some pounds. And of course, we don't feed them when they have diverticulitis. So he lost like 15, 20 pounds. And then he says, Doc, this is my good chance. I'm going to watch my diet. And next time he came, he was doing it. I said, Bob, oh yeah, they're doing wonderful. Another visit, he gained 18 pounds back again. The guy is so happy. And I said, Bob, what is happening? I said, now I'm going to really work hard and this. And I said, listen, you remove that idea of doing. He says, what do you mean? I said, so far, you had idea of that, okay, you're going to take care of this. You have watching your diet, this and that. Now, then you got into the zone of getting into the eating this food and that food, and then you were a doer. And then, now you're saying that I'm going to take away from this action. I'm going to watch myself. But you're still a doer. You're doing an action with some results in mind. That result is a perfection of looking like 18-year-old kid or whatever. That idea of perfection, it's making you do things. I said, have you ever thought of stepping back, ever? I said, your idea of doing something to achieve something is a wrong concept. Just like the wrong method of farming that we have been practicing for thousands of years. So, the only time that doership is useless, to realize the futility of doership, is when you become a non-doer. And that non-doership can happen only if you meditate. And in the state of meditation, you realize that I have another existence where I don't have to do anything. And that non-doership of true non-doership of meditation, now you start comparing with all the crazy things you were doing to achieve certain results. And it was totally unnecessary. Right? So, when you become at a level and you start experiencing the fleeting moments of bliss, now you start feeling good about yourself. That, okay, I am what I am. I love myself. I am happy where I am. Even with 320 pounds, fine. Accept it though. That acceptance is the biggest miracle that can happen in your life. Accept it. But then, at that moment, you give up the notion that you're trying to lose weight. Give up the notion that you have to become something. This is what I am. And when that happens, then you experience that state of equilibrium. And I'm happy. You start loving yourself. Okay, if I cannot lose weight, I don't care. But then the miracle starts. That if you are so happy with yourself, it does not leave any room for desire for Haagen-Dazs. It does not, in a true sense, I'm talking about. If you're so happy with yourself, I don't need to be happier. I'm in a perfect state of happiness right now. So why do I have to eat crazy things? Why do I have to drink? Why do I have to smoke? Why do I have to do all these things? I'm okay. And that satisfactory notion ultimately can spill from meditation into daily life. And then it becomes 24/7 meditation. It's not easy, but at least you have to take a step in that direction. The reason it's difficult because of our vasanas and vrittis. It's like a steam engine that's going on. And I tell them, there is a life outside the steam engine where you can sit at the lake and enjoy the beauty of the lake. You will never experience that because you're so tuned into running steam engine at 120 miles an hour and faster and faster and faster. The whole concept of fast life came because they say in the Western world, because of the Christianity, which believes in only one life. Whatever you want to achieve, you have to achieve in one life because there is no reincarnation. So on one extreme, they say, well, you have one life, so all the speed, everything becomes so speedy. You drive at 200 miles an hour, not enough. Now you have to come up with a faster train, bullet train, another 400 miles an hour, whatever, So,
but in that particular reincarnation, I'll tell you, in Bible, also it is written, like, when you die, you become a bird. When you die, you become a stone. So they're not telling
that's
reincarnation.
Muslim. No, that's Quran.
No.
In Quran,
Bible also.
there was it may be.
Yeah, in Bible
not
also.
something similar,
Same
but
thing.
that was
So
I had heard it was a part of the Quran. But
they don't say about reincarnation.
Right, but in a different
they
way.
Talk
In different way.
this, yeah.
But people took it whatever they wanted to take it. But on the other hand, what happened with us was because we believe in reincarnation, we says, well, I'm gonna do whatever I can this life. If I can't, I'll do it in next life. So we started postponing. So
आज करो सो कल करो परसों इतनी भी क्या
So
जल्दी
both ends are wrong.
Both ends are wrong.
Both ends are wrong. So the time to realize is that the things to do is right now, and the time to wake up is also right now. And putting the things off in the future is also a wrong thing, and trying to achieve things in a short time is also a wrong thing. Either way, this way you have a lot of stress, this way you become lazy, so there has to be happy equilibrium in between. So the moment you realize that the things to be done right now is only by realizing what we're doing wrong. But when we say, what are the methods? Why are we doing this? This and that. This is only because we have not understood that we are doing things wrong.